imagine a time when thought was undifferentiated? Well, consider the possibility that such was once the case. That once upon a time, many, many suns ago, in fact, before there were any suns at all, there was no you or I. No here or there, no up or down, in or out. That all that there was in the entirety of Creat-no, wait, there wasn't even a creation yet. That all there was in the entirety of this formless void of potential was awareness. Not even thought had been separated yet. Omniscience was eternal and infinite. There was nothing beyond, nothing within or without. Until, at some gradual point, awareness became aware of itself. And with that came the experience of differentiation. With this understanding came the realization of complete and utter pervasivity, of being and expansiveness that was formless in nature and yet totally present. It was everywhere and nowhere. It was everything and nothing. Omnipresence awoke to its own presence and power, and by so doing separated itself from the entirety, that formless void of potential in which it had been gestated. And in an instant, the first word was spoken. And with the speaking of that first holy word, a big bang occurred that resulted in a further differentiation from formlessness into form, and a simultaneous multiversal and dimensional descent into matter arising from pure consciousness to manifestation upon the material planes. Greater and greater forms of etheric consciousness descended into matter, achieving density and mass, limiting omniconsciousness and perception, savoring the change, the viscerality of experience that resulted from this great experiment. But it was not that smooth or simple, was it? Such things never are. Before that Big Bang occurred, hierarchies of powers and principalities evolved as consciousness continued to coalesce and differentiate itself from the void of potential and descend further through the etheric vibratory levels of dimensions in ever-decreasing collectivities at every stage approaching material manifestation, accepting only that final precipitous descent into form. That last choice was made after the coalescence of separate collectivities of mass consciousness that were distinct in and of themselves, creating vibrational energy families, if you will, formed to abide and rule in sharply distinct dimensional levels, interacting with each other and permeating the bubble of consciousness, still and always ensconced within that infinite void of potential, yearning for experience and curious as to the possibilities of even more radical interaction and differentiation. Experience calls ever, and at some point it was decided by different collectivities that they would enter into form, into the lowest densities of consciousness. Materially incomprehensible negotiations between some of these vast and sublime soul groups resulted in material ramifications that limit the world of our senses as we continue to reenact the drama of agreements made eons ago between collectivities inimical in nature, perhaps even competitive or warring, and yet desirous of a shared experience of incarnation resulting in the evolution of the all through the experience of the one. Many ones, that is, each a member of a greater soul group, interacting within the context of their own unconscious awareness of that membership, and yet fulfilling the conditions of destiny through the actions of each soul group's individual components or members. As above, so below. If this ancient paean, a truism of cosmic unity, holds, then it only stands to reason that our most sacred beliefs do not tell the entire story. If there is good and evil on the material plane of creation, why should there not be good and evil, or altruism and malignant narcissism at the higher etheric vibrational levels? Perhaps the terminology is a distraction, one that draws away from the underlying abstract scientific concepts. If there is dichotomous opposition at all levels of nature, why should this not also be so at every dimensional level, leading back from form into formlessness? Since formlessness only exists within the void of potential, then every dimensional level leading to and from that original state of consciousness reflects the descent of awareness from unawareness, of consciousness from unconsciousness. The movement or evolution of creation, then, is cyclical in nature. From the original state of undifferentiation to some future state of undifferentiation, with the infinite array of multiversal and dimensional experiences of material incarnation manifesting the entire range of possibilities inherent within the void of creative potential, as consciousness itself yearns for unconsciousness, as individuality yearns for collectivity, as I yearn for you. What if this is true? Could you imagine what a world it would be? What a universe it would be? What a multiverse it would be? Multiple, if not infinite dimensions and densities interacting, each of us playing a part chosen far back into an inconceivably distant past reality in order to fulfill the conditions necessary to create an equally inconceivably distant future reality. Time being a condition of material incarnation, past, present, and future are visible simultaneously from without. The material world, then, is like a bubble or marble in space, and to soul groups and entities looking in upon the goings-ons within, all strands of fourth dimensional and third density time and space are visible simultaneously. It is an uncomfortable concept, is it not? Thinking of ourselves as being exposed in our perceived privacy and material isolation to extra-dimensional groups and beings that see and understand, perhaps even more than we do, our every thought and action, past, present, and future. Like two-dimensional flatlanders seem to us, our four-dimensional perception of existence is limited when compared to that of the entities residing in the higher density frequencies. To those collectivities and entities spying upon our doings here within the material universes of conscious manifestation, perhaps communication with us often occurs at a level beneath or above consciousness, moving into the realm of conscious perception only at those junctures when seeming synchronicities result in fortuitous occurrences, or even negative happenstances that make some sort of an impact upon our lives. Perhaps interaction with these soul groups occurs within the stream of chatter that arises from our egoic minds, and we find it difficult to distinguish between the noises, unable to separate what is truly our own inner voice and what might be a communication from elsewhere or elsewhen. Perhaps these interactions are formalized with automatic writing, mediumship, and Ouija boards, and perhaps the intentions of those doing the communicating are not always in what we, in our peculiar and limited manner, might consider to be our own best interests. The mythopoeic era of humanity, often called the Golden Age, is distinct in that during this time period, an age of gods, goddesses, heroes, and monsters, people spoke to divine beings directly. People saw the gods and goddesses, interacted with them. The nights were filled with horrible creatures, and fear and dread were not inculcated purposefully as we do today with our scary movies and pathological curiosities toward the perverse. Magic was in the air. The fairies, the Shi, Tuatha De Danann, lived on the earth and in the earth, with dwarves, gnomes, druids, and witches behind and in every rock and tree, hiding under every hill and sneaking across every dale. Perhaps the side effects of a burgeoning earthly population and a corresponding increase in collective psychic detritus or background noise, taken alongside the increased static of various families of electromagnetic radiation pervading the ether, have reduced our ability to sense the influx of extra-dimensional communications. Perhaps the solidification of cultural mentafacts and sociofacts have also reduced our ability to see things that are outside of our frame of reference. I am reminded of the tale of the shaman who witnessed the coming of the Europeans to the shores of the Caribbean, who walked to the beach day after day, looking out, knowing something was there, until one day the ships that had been anchored offshore for days appeared, as if by magic, finally coaxed forth by his gradual and systematic breaking down of unconscious cultural boundaries, allowing him to see something that was totally outside of his or anyone else's in his culture's kin. If a Grey, one of the little big-headed aliens of popular mythology, stood right beside you or appeared outside of your window one night and you opened your eyes and looked right at it, would you be able to see it? Would you believe the evidence of your own eyes? Think about it carefully before you answer. With the precession of the equinoxes and the continuous movement of galaxies through our own universe, again one of an infinite array, the tendencies of consciousness reflect a simultaneous movement across intergalactic space ranging across a time span of 25,800 years, which itself is only one of 12 aspects of a greater 309,600 year cycle, during which time consciousness expands and contracts as we move also between the 12 houses of zodiacal precession, continuing our outward expansion as the relationship between our own particular galactic spiral retains its relationship to other galaxies, solar systems, and celestial bodies, maintaining etheric roles and promises made between consciousness collectivities those many, many eons ago. Our experiences as individuals are diverse, and yet there is a similarity, a connection between us all that links us as one, that has been explored psychologically and spiritually, acknowledged, its ramifications considered, expounded upon, its implications far-ranging. The viscerality of experience connects us and yet separates us as we coexist within the shifting boundaries of perceptive constraints that comprise this shared illusion of individuality. There is no doubt that we all share a genetic heritage, and there should also be no doubt that we share a spiritual heritage. The imperatives of incarnation demand the expression of difference, and yet there is so much more to reality than what we see, hear, and feel. Those vibrational changes in the atmosphere that we sense before a storm or in the quiet of a room, that quality of aloneness that might change in an instant, raising hairs on the backs of our necks, causing us to crane our necks, searching the room for the entry of another. Those feelings that we get when we consider a course of action, either affirming or denying our intellectual decision-making processes, causing us to squirm in discomfort as we battle within ourselves to come to a decision, or not. Awareness increases as knowledge of self does the same. Deciding to seek after self-realization is a choice to seek after the path less traveled, and to commit oneself to seeking after the truth, no matter the cost. For most, ignorance and unconsciousness is preferable. Living knowing that life is but a dream and that we can drift, slumbering, merrily dreaming as we course down the twisting, branching rivers of incarnation to approach the falls of eternity, then to plunge, eyes wide shut, into the unknown mist of implacable destiny is but one choice in an infinite array. One that we make knowingly at every level, despite its ramifications in the material world of our own self and group immolation. Such is the state of this precious life we live, gained at the cost of payments made in flesh and blood, pain and pleasure, hate and love. Again, as above, so below. Consider that as you contemplate sleeping through life, unknowing.